If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and right alongside every week, of course, is LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and Cindy was just bragging before we went on air that it was a balmy 71 up in Buffalo yesterday, much like it is down here in Florida, so she's enjoying some good weather here just, a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah, we have not had any snow yet. Isn't that weird?
No, let me tell you, being originally from Canada and pretty close to the border, that's very unusual for Buffalo. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a second, but let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live Tuesday mornings on the broadcast. And you just go to blogtalkradio.com, and up in the search key, you can type Women of Golf, and that will take you to the main page. And, of course, the live show is right at the top. And that goes from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time for those of you on the East Coast, and that's 8 to 9 for you on Central Time. Also available at iTunes.com. You can get it as a podcast, so you just go to iTunes.com, and up in the search key under podcast, you just type in Women of Golf, and that will also get you to all of the great shows that we've recorded so far. But thank you for joining us live this morning. And anytime you want to call in during the show, during the live broadcast from 9 to 10 Eastern on Tuesdays, you're welcome to do so. And you can reach Cindy and I or any of our guests if you have questions. You can call in at 347-945-5855. And you can also email any questions or comments to womenofgolf@gmail.com. And if you're interested in coming on, if you're somebody in the golf profession, whether it be a player or a teacher professional or maybe just somebody that business entrepreneur that you feel you have something that you would like to share of interest with our audience, we're always glad to have some new guests on. You can reach out to Cindy at cindymillergolf.com, and also make sure you go to Cindy's website, which is cindymillergolf.com. That's what I was trying to say. Lots of great information there, and Cindy's a great professional to work with, so you can reach out to her at her email at cindy@cindymillergolf.com. And you can also contact me directly as well at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And, of course, Golf Talk Live is my other program that I do Thursday nights from 6 to 8 Central, so make sure you tune in to that as well on blogtalkradio.com. We got a great guest for you this morning. Cindy and I have Leanne Finger, who's going to be on. She's the Director of Player Development for the EWGA, which is the Executive Women's Golf Association, and she's based out of Palm Beach Gardens in Florida, as we were just talking about. And she'll be joining us here in a little bit. But, Cindy, let's go back to the weather here. How unusual is that for Buffalo not to have snow this time of year?
Well, they broke a record yesterday, a 100-year record of a temperature. It did reach 71 degrees. And we broke the record December 3rd for not having snow before then. So it's a little spooky, and it doesn't seem like Christmas is coming. Although there's a cold front coming through now, and it is supposed to get cold and possibly snow Friday and Saturday, which would be, we welcome it, really, to be honest with you. We're so used to having it. It's kind of like, okay, I'm ready for winter. Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's the calm before the storm. Well, the thing is, too, what a lot of people don't realize is that there's a purpose for the snow and the frost, and that helps the farmers in the new year, and that by freezing out the farmland and that, and without it, it actually creates problems for them. So as much as it's difficult sometimes having to dig out, and Buffalo gets a lot of heavy snow there throughout the season, it's something as difficult as it is sometimes, it's certainly welcomed, especially this time of year. Nothing beats a nice white snowy Christmas. So we'll pray that you get some snow, but not all at once.
Absolutely.
But,
that would be the mission.
Exactly. We're also talking about, we'll get into more of it, of course, later in the new year, but as Cindy and I were just talking about, we're both going to be going down to this year, which actually is next year in 2016, going to the PGA Merchandising Show in Orlando, which goes through, I think it's the 24th, 5th or something, through to the 28th, something around those dates, or at the last week of January anyways. So we'll have some great stuff to talk about when we come back, and Cindy and I, of course, are going to meet up while we're at the show at some point and strategize for the new year. But anyways, we'll get into some more good information about that as the weeks and that come on. And as you may recall, the last time we were on air, unfortunately, let me just apologize. Last week we had to cancel out with Kate Tempesta, who was going to be our guest, and unfortunately ran into a major issue here last minute. They were doing some updates on the system, and unfortunately we had to cancel literally last minute. So our apologies to Kate Tempesta, but we've got her rescheduled, I believe, in January sometime. I think the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. She'll be coming on, and we'll be doing that interview then. So again, I apologize to Kate, but and also to our listeners. But this is going to be the last show for 2015. And we're going to be taking a short break, of course, to celebrate the holidays, and then we're going to be jumping right back into it the first week of January with some great guests. And then we're also, in the new year, we're going to be bringing back really a great segment, Cindy, that you did very early on in our broadcast, and that was on the mental side of things. We've got a whole series that we're going to be bringing back, and we're going to talk about that in the weeks following the new year. We'll bring that back on as well. I think it's a good series and getting everybody in ship shape for the new year.
Absolutely, that's for sure. So if anybody has any comments or questions, I would love to hear from you. It's Cindy at CindyMillerGolf.com on what you'd like to learn, or questions about playing, or issues you have on the golf course. We would really like to have this collaborative, if you will. So we'd like to hear from you. Right.
Yeah, reach out to the ladies that are tuning into and even the gentlemen that might be tuning into the broadcast now. Even though this is primarily we're really targeting the women's market here, I know for a fact that there are a lot of men that listen to the program as well, and thank you for tuning in. I think it's great that you're participating. But we would certainly love to have some participation from the audience. So by all means, reach out to Cindy at CindyMillerGolf.com. If you have any questions or comments about the program, or if there's certain areas of the game or certain things within the industry that maybe you'd like to learn more about that we can help you with, reach out to her, and we will do our very best to get that information. And feel free to contact the program. As I said, during the live broadcast, we would love to have some interaction with our listeners and things like that. So, again, reach out to Cindy at CindyMillerGolf.com with any of your questions that you may have. And also, as I said earlier, feel free to call into the program during the live broadcast. And that number, again, is 347-945-5855. And one of the things, Cindy, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we meet in January, I'm looking at putting together maybe a few contests throughout the year as well to get some more interaction and having some great prizes and gifts available for you ladies out there. So this is another reason to get involved with the program. There are some great opportunities to get some gifts and participate in some great contests and that as well. So we'll talk more about that as the season starts. But again, thank you for joining us this morning. Now, Cindy, I know we got a few more minutes here before Leanne comes on, but what I wanted to ask you is, I know you've got a lot of great things that you're gearing up for the new year. What are some of the things that you've got cooking for the new year?
Well, we've got a couple of boot camps we're going to run, one in February and one in April at Orange County National Golf Club in Orlando, which is where Demo Day is held during the PGA Merchandise Show. It's 4 days of serious golf instruction. We call it boot camp for a reason.
Right.
And we start out with breakfast in the morning. We practice, right after that we do instruction between 9 and noon. We have lunch, and then we play 18 holes every afternoon guided playing experiences, which really help people learn how to, better maneuver themselves around the golf course. So we're looking forward to that. We're also starting a couple of programs, Own Your Game Academy. Mm-hmm. It's a monthly, 4-month program that we're going to do at the Whirly Golf Dome in Buffalo to really help people understand why they don't play any better. It's not always the swing. Typically the control tower.
Right. Well, and you've talked about that extensively here on the program over the last year or so. About how, even with yourself, there's been moments throughout your career where, you've really had to get the old noggin working just on all cylinders in order to play your best golf. So it isn't just about the golf. This is the funny thing. This is sort of a misnomer that I think a lot of people don't understand. You can take to the golf course, and when I say subpar, I don't mean any pun to it, a golf game. In other words, your physical game may not necessarily be up to par, but if you're mentally sharp, you can make up for a myriad of mistakes that you might make with your swing. Whereas the other way around, you can have the best looking swing and the best ball striking ability in the world, but if mentally you're not focused properly and really firing on all cylinders, that swing is not going to serve you as well. It might help you out in certain situations, but it's not going to serve you well in the long run, correct?
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
So you need to know what you're trying to do, and why are you trying to do it, and how can you accomplish it. You have to have realistic goals and expectations, and if not, you're just asking for a meltdown.
Yeah.
And meltdowns are no fun.
Exactly. And tell us a little bit more about, about your boot camps, because I know that, you and I have talked a little bit about this before, but, why they're so successful. And one of the key things I want you to emphasize on is the playing component of it. A lot of people think when they go and, whether they're taking lessons or they're getting in for a series of lessons, think that, I can just do everything on the range. But there's a reason why you want to get them out in the golf course. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we need to see if you can plan a strategy to play your game to the best of your ability. I see people, trying to hit miraculous shots that they really don't have in their tool chest or their golf bag. And then they make doubles and triples, and they just make silly mistakes because they don't have a plan. So, number one, let's make a plan. Number two, let's focus on the strategy and add up the score when we're done. And if you do that, typically you get what you're looking for, which makes life much better.
Do you think a lot of, average, and I say average golfers out there, obviously we'll leave the pros out because they have a whole different analogy, but do you think a lot of the higher handicappers, especially early on in their time, focus too much on the numbers? They get too caught up on, trying to make par or trying to, get those birdies or what have you, and not enough on their strategy?
They do. I think they're so used to having people criticize, what'd you shoot? What'd you make on that hole? And they don't realize the process that we need to go through to get better. And we tend to pick on ourselves so much. Oh, I just hit it terrible. And, what did you do good? Did you do anything good? And how can we get better at what we're working on and then be happy with the results? I just think that they allow the negative to win.
Yeah.
And it's just not good.
Yeah, and we're going to get more in depth about that aspect of it when we bring the series back that Own Your Game next year that Cindy and I have been talking about. When we bring that back, because I think it's certainly worth revisiting many times. But that's one of the core areas. There is too many people do focus on the negative aspects of their golf game and not enough on the positive. And it's not about just positive thinking. Say, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It's not. It's a little bit more involved than that. But, you certainly have to recognize when mistakes are made, but you have to also find ways of, processing that and using it to your advantage and not just dwelling on the negative all the time. And ultimately, that's why so many people get frustrated and I think truly end up dropping out of the game, is because they just get frustrated because all they think about is all the bad things they do, and they don't really focus on the strengths of their game. Which is really what's going to propel them into the next level. And Cindy,
Well, and again, I think people really need to stop and say, what do I really want?
Right.
What do I want to work on? What do I want to improve? Is that possible? Can I hit it further, well, yeah, maybe 5 or 10 yards. 30, probably not,
Right.
Can you score better? People come in for lessons. They say, well, I want to hit it farther. Well, why do you want to hit it farther? Because I want to score better. I said, well, how many fairways do you hit? Well, I don't know. I don't keep track. Well, maybe you should keep statistics on, 5 rounds in a row. How many fairways did you hit? Did you miss it left? Did you miss it right? Can you not reach the green? Again, most people don't break 100. So if we could get you where you're 95, maybe you'd be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to exactly. You have to have a goal in mind, and you have to be, number one, you have to be realistic in your goals. But you also have to set some, maybe have a long-term goal. Okay, I want to, for argument's sake, I want to break 80, maybe your longer goal, and let's say you're struggling right now to get through 100. But then you need to set some little goals along the way. And the reason why you do that is, and I think this works in any aspect of life, not just in golf, if you focus solely on the big goal, it becomes very daunting and it's like somebody that's maybe overweight that's trying to lose a lot of weight. They're focusing on that big number as opposed to, if I lose a pound this week or 2 pounds this week, and celebrate that. And then the same thing, until ultimately you'll eventually reach that goal. They focus on the end game, if you will, as opposed to the steps that they need to take up. And we're going to talk about we're going to talk about more of that. And the other thing, one last thing I'm going to do, because I see Leanne's ready here to go, and we're going to bring her on, is, a lot of people, especially the men, and I'm sure some of the ladies out there do it as well, you certainly have to have some good equipment. You don't necessarily have to have the best in the market, but you do have to have some good equipment. But more importantly, it has to be fitted properly. A lot of people buy stuff off the shelf and just figure, okay, I'm good to go. And you can, if you're a better player, you can get away with that a little bit. But somebody that maybe is just starting out, you need to be properly fitted. And we'll talk about that more as well in the new year, about how to be properly fitted and what the process is and why it's important to do that. But we'll talk about that. But a lot of people focus on, their driver, having this, big, beautiful driver that they spend a small fortune on, and really don't focus on the areas of the game that really are your scoring, which is your short game and, of course, particularly your putting. So we'll talk about that as well. But we're going to bring on our special guest here. Let me just do an introduction. And Cindy, I'm going to let you take over from there to start things off. As I mentioned earlier, our very special guest this morning is Leanne Finger, and she's the Director of Player Development for the EWGA, which is the Executive Women's Golf Association, and she's based out of Palm Beach Gardens down in South Florida. She is also manages the current golf education offerings to more than 14,000 EWGA members in over 120 chapters nationwide, and communicates game improvement offerings to the EWGA members. Key initiatives Leanne manages includes the EWGA Grads to Golf program, which we'll talk about this morning, the Golf Course Network, and the EWGA Par 3 Challenge. In addition to, she also writes a weekly blog in the members' e-newsletter, Connections. And with more than 20 years of experience in the golf industry, she has extensive background in golf administration, golf operations, as well as serving as a liaison with the Allied Golf Associations for many years. So without further ado, let's bring out Leanne Finger.
Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Cindy. Thank you for that nice introduction.
Good morning, Leanne. Glad to have you join us this morning. Cindy, you go ahead and start off.
Well, Ted, we neglected to tell you that she actually lives in Phoenix, so she got up really early to hang out with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
The time change has been pretty fun. I did have a conference call earlier this summer where the person on the East Coast said, would it be okay if we called at 7:30? And I thought we meant 7:30 my time, and she called me at 7:30 East Coast time, so it was a pleasant awakening at 4:30 in the morning to have a conference call.
Well, Leanne, we thank you for getting up a little earlier this morning and joining us on the Women of Golf show. We appreciate that very much. Cindy, go ahead.
So tell us, Leanne, with all the experience you have and everywhere that you've worked, because you're an amazing person, why should people learn to play golf?
Well, Cindy, that's a great question, and I'm sure like you and many of our other, colleagues, LPGA and PGA professionals, we get into the game because we love it, we have a passion, and those of us who are fortunate enough to be PGA and LPGA professionals, pass that passion on to people by helping them learn the game and play the game and certainly, your students who excel and really stick with it and make it either a collegiate career or a lifetime career. So what I like about golf is the fact that it just gives you an opportunity to get out and socialize with your friends. Love the fact that it's a door opener. We have instances and stories of people who have been in strange situations, whether it's an office outing or something like that, but it gives people the opportunity to have that commonality and talk about golf. And the neat thing is that regardless of ability, people of all abilities and all ages can play the game together. And certainly what I like is, it's a sport and a game of a lifetime.
Why is business golf so important? I think I know why, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, we know that, that golf is a great opportunity that affords people, 4, hopefully not more than 5 hours of uninterrupted time together where you get to know people. And if you're doing business with people, it's a nice opportunity to kind of peek into their character and see what they're like. If they are calm and a lot of fun and have a great conversation with you during that 4.5-hour time frame on the golf course, that's going to give you some great insight to whether or not you want to do business with that person versus a person that, hits a poor shot and they might throw their clubs or they might swear or, we've heard stories too of folks on the golf course for business situations and, their favorite thing is the beverage cart stop. So, the opportunity to be out on the golf course in a great surrounding and enjoying, nature and the people that you're playing with, just gives you a great opportunity to establish that relationship. And then, certainly you follow that up with, whether it's a meal or a beverage after golf and a follow-up meeting. So it just, provides a great chance to get to know the people that you're doing business with. And as we've all heard, there are very few sports that give you that opportunity and that interaction. I mean, you're probably not going to do business with somebody that you're playing tennis with across the net or, certainly professional sports in the past have been used as a groundwork for people to do business, whether you go to a sports game or something like that. But golf really affords you that ability to have that one-on-one time and really get to know the people that you'd like to do business with.
Leanne, this is Ted. Let me ask you just sort of a follow-up from that. And obviously, I'm sure you can build a case, and you've just eloquently done it for really women to play in golf. But one of the things too that I've always found is there's really no other sport that you can really have a prospect's attention for 4 hours on a golf course. As you mentioned, across the court in tennis, you're hitting back and forth. It's a very quick pace, and you might get together for a bite to eat after. But again, usually your time's a little bit more limited there. But on the golf course, you've basically got that person's attention for 4 hours, and it does provide an opportunity. Why is it important? And more women are starting to recognize that. Why is it important, particularly for women, to use golf as a business tool?
Well, Ted, that's a nice question, and something that we're very fond of at the EWGA, and really trying to educate our 14,000 EWGA members that, take that opportunity, say yes to that invitation. I think there's a stereotype of, the guys in the office are the ones that go play golf, and we like to tell the story of, if you could, imagine the scenario where the guy comes to the office in a golf shirt because it's the day he gets to leave at noon and go play golf, and kind of talks about, today is the day we're going to meet so-and-so and, work on this business contract, and they're all keyed up on the golf. And the women, unfortunately, in the past have been kind of left behind.
Yes.
To kind of stay behind and run the office while the men go out and do business on the golf course. And so we've tried to educate our members and say, first of all, let your employer know that you play golf. And you don't have to be a great golfer. You just have to know the basic rules and some basic etiquette and the ability to keep the pace of play and move along. And, we heard of a situation where a gal would leave work to play in a Wednesday evening golf league, and she would leave at 3:30, and every week she had a different excuse, like I have to go pick up my kids at daycare. Oh, now today I have a dentist appointment. Now today I have to go see my eye doctor. Because women are afraid that if they leave early and say that they're going to play golf, that that's going to somehow impact their, evaluation at work, because they're traditionally not been in that role where it's okay for them to leave to play golf. So, we've been just really trying to, like I said, educate our members, and the important thing is that they have that skill in the business world, because it will help them enhance and possibly even advance their careers.
Right, and the other thing too is, and particularly for women who are entrepreneurs, not so much necessarily an employee of a company, but that are entrepreneurs, a lot of them don't appreciate the importance. They get too wrapped up in the day-to-day business dealings, and they really don't take time, or they use that excuse, well, I can't do this, I just don't, I don't have time. They need to really, and I think you would agree, they need to find a way to do things a little bit differently to afford some, even if it's only once a week, whether it be in a women's network, golf outing or something to that degree, just to get them exposed to it, because it is a very valuable business tool. And I think that, as you said, a lot of women tend to make excuses for not doing it, whether it's, they're afraid to sort of create an issue at work, or if they're running their own business, they don't want to allot time because they feel it's a waste. They don't appreciate the value of that. Is that pretty much accurate, you think?
Definitely, yeah. They don't see themselves in that role as being the person to probably initiate that business contact or that outing on the golf course. But certainly the importance of learning to take time to have golf as a skill set that you can use is certainly going to enhance your career, and for an entrepreneur type of a female, that's certainly something that they need to think about and focus on.
Very good.
Don't you think? I think it's the biggest benefit is the relationships. Because golf is such a participation sport that people play, and one of the issues is the fear of, I don't want to look silly. But if you grow the courage, if you will, to learn to play, then you're going to be included to go build relationships, which is in turn is going to help build your business.
Exactly, and we know that if you have a female that has any type of ability to advance the ball off the tee, that they quickly realize when there's a corporate scramble or a company outing that the women are in hot commodity because they get to play from the forward tees, and
right.
Most people appreciate that. They see that as sort of an advantage. So we encourage people to not, if you do play golf, like I said, you don't have to be a single-digit handicapper. You just have to know the etiquette. And Cindy will attest to this, that most women love getting into the game of golf because of fashion. So
yeah.
They get that outfit, they hit properly fitted clubs, and hit the ball in the air and feel some mild success, and away they go.
I can attest to that as well. Being on the opposite side as a male, the men's fashion in golf doesn't even compare to the women's fashion. There's just so many more options and things like that for the ladies out there. So yeah, that's a great wing. The other thing too, I think, Leanne, for women, in addition to what both you and Cindy have said, the sort of apprehension to sort of step out of the box, and I think they're nervous about, as Cindy had pointed out, looking foolish out in the golf course. But the women have a lot of great opportunities as well. There's some great teacher professionals like Cindy and others out there. Women who understand that plight, if you will, and are out there to help them. And I strongly recommend, especially any of our listeners out there that are sort of sitting on the fence, get in touch with your local professional, your LPGA professional, and get set up to learn the game and understand not just how to play the game from a physical standpoint, but just understanding some of the rules and things behind it, and make it a much more don't just try to go out or have your husband or boyfriend teach you. Get out there and connect with somebody and get involved in an organization such as yourself, the EWGA, which leads me into my next question. You have a Grads to Golf program at EWGA. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, thanks, Ted. The EWGA Grads to Golf program was founded last year, and it was a former EWGA board member who had this passion and this dream that wouldn't it be great if all MBA graduate students learned how to play the game of golf before they got into the business world. Mm-hmm. And so while that seemed like a pretty big task to undertake, we did pilot the program at University of Tennessee, which was her alma mater. And basically the EWGA Grads to Golf program is a 6-week program that combines classroom instruction with hands-on golf. So the way it would work is the students would have about a 30-minute classroom presentation where it's a local businesswoman, a local EWGA chapter member. It could be a senior administrator at that college or university. And they really share with these students why golf is important to them. Things, how golf has helped them, why they decided to play golf. And then they go and have 60 to 90 minutes of hands-on instruction. And so the program includes a clubhouse orientation, which is designed to help, as Cindy talked about, the students kind of knock down that fear factor and help them feel comfortable and know really what to do and how to act when they get to a golf facility. We can all recall instances. I know when I was an assistant golf pro, you could spot the new golfer because they're the ones that came into the golf shop with the clubs on their shoulder. So, we just kind of teach them kind of the do's and the don'ts of the golf course and the checking in and getting themselves to the first tee. And then that program culminates with a graduation scramble, and that's where 2 local EWGA chapter members are paired with, 2 students in a foursome, and they go out and they play 9 holes, and it's a scramble, so they get a taste of what a corporate event could be like, and the EWGA members, as I said, mentor them, help them with, rule situations and where to put their bag and really how to navigate on the golf course. But then it turns into a nice mentoring opportunity for business and relationships off the golf course as well. So we're in the process of, really recruiting colleges and universities to participate. And we've had a number of great conversations with not only college golf coaches, but some LPGA golf professionals who are interested in hosting the program in their area. So we've launched it nationwide and have a goal to get, about 15 or 20 schools on board. And, we're about halfway there right now. And it's really an exciting program to work on. I had an opportunity to write the curriculum for the program, as well as, reach out to my coaching colleague friends and my LPGA professional friends. So it's just been a lot of fun to share the program, and there's certainly a need for that because we sort of feel that millennial space is kind of untapped right now. So very exciting times for us.
Well, and the interesting thing, a lot of the stats will tell you, I don't unfortunately have them all in front of me here, but, they talk about there, on some aspects, the decline in golf, and that's because there has been sort of a gap there. But of the new golfers coming in, I think it's, I forget now the percentage is 46+% of all new golfers are women. So that's nearly 50%. And that's something that you haven't seen for a long time in the golf industry. So that's certainly very exciting, I'm sure, for organizations like the EWGA. But one thing I want to ask you, being part of a big organization like this, because I'm sure you've seen it personally, but I'm sure many of your members have, there's still a little bit of discomfort for a lot of women going into some of the golf courses. They go into the pro shop. It always isn't a great experience for them because it can be very intimidating. What can the industry do? What changes can you foresee happening maybe in the years to come to make it more of a friendly environment? What's some things that golf courses that that might be listening out there, changes that they could make to the way they're running things, maybe staffing, a reshuffling of staffing to make it a more inviting experience for women particularly?
That's a nice thought, Ted, and the EWGA happens to be one of 3 founding partners in an organization called the National Women's Golf Alliance. and that also includes Golf for Cause at EWGA in the Phoenix area, and Golf Course Architect Jan Beljan in Jupiter, Florida. And so our three associations work together to form this National Women's Golf Alliance, and what we do is we visit golf facilities, certainly not like a secret shopper. You know, a golf facility would say, hey, we'd like to know what we can do to be more welcoming for women. And so what we do is we go and play the facility, and it gives us an opportunity to evaluate that facility in 5 key areas. And it's like course playability, customer service, golf course amenities, facility amenities, and then their golf programs. And as I mentioned, it's not designed to be like a secret shopper, we got your guy on outside services didn't pick up my bag from the bag drop, you know.
Right.
It's not that at all. It's an awareness, it's a recognition of what the facility does well, and then offer suggestions. We have a written evaluation report that we provide for the facility of areas that they could improve upon. And it could be simple things like, you know, when we look at their menu, are they offering vegetarian options? Or now with the importance of many people being gluten-free, do they have, you know, great options like that? On the beverage cart, do you have healthy snacks? Are you offering, you know, the coconut waters and the almonds? And, you know, when I grew up playing, it was a soda and a Snicker bar. You know, that was my idea of the beverage cart. So, you know, it's things like that. It's golf course playability, helping them recognize, do they have multiple sets that are maintained as the same standards and rated for women. And certainly customer service becomes an important thing too. So to your question about, you know, people feeling intimidated, it's really an overall, you know, culture, if you will, to be welcoming and, you know, friendly to everyone, but certainly to make women feel comfortable as well. Things like amenities in the golf shop. You know, we'll walk into a golf shop and certainly you see apparel, but do they think to have golf gloves for women, both right-handed and left-handed? So, you know, it's just really helping them open their eyes to here's what you do really well, and here's some suggestions of how you could encourage more women and make more women feel friendly at your facility.
Yeah, and you know, I hate to use the word intimidated, but I know from feedback that I've had from a lot of women in golf, not necessarily just at the professional level, but even you know, women executives that play, and obviously there has been some road work and that has been paved along the way through great efforts like your organization and others out there that are paving the way, but you know, there's still a lot of work to do, and I think, in my opinion, anyways, I think that I'll give you a good example. I had a guest on not too long ago who is involved with a lot of different golf expos around the country, particularly up in the Northeast. And she had made a comment that one of the things that she found, she belongs to a very large women's group up in her area, and they attended a couple of the different, some of the members attended some of the different trade shows and things. And there really wasn't anything there for them, and they felt it was sort of a wasted effort. And so they've taken the initiative now, much like what you are. It's not, you know, an opportunity to pounce on anybody or criticize or critique, but a way of offering them to because there is a huge potential market for the golf industry in the women's market, and it's really being missed by so many people. So what other things can you do, and what other things can even maybe Cindy and I do with the program that could really help to open the doors? What do you think? Any suggestions?
Well, you know, certainly, and Cindy knows this, when we have been at, you know, golf industry gatherings and conferences around the country, you know, it's important, I think, for people to realize and recognize that most women don't wake up one morning and decide, you know, today's the day I'm going to learn how to play golf. And they get out of bed and they phone the local professional and say, you know, hey, Jim, I'd like to take a series of 6 lessons with you. You know, that likely doesn't happen. We know that women want to be, you know, I can't tell you how many times I'll go to a group and I'll say, how many of you play golf? And, you know, 20 hands go up. And how many of you don't play golf? And, you know, 35 hands sheepishly go up. And I say, how come you don't play? Well, we've never been asked. So we know, first of all, that women want to be invited. They want to be included, like we talked about with business golf earlier. The second thing is that, you know, you have to have a recognition and awareness that women play golf for reasons different than men do, and for women, it's all about social. And, you know, the successful women's programs around the country that professionals are hosting, Cindy and I know does this too. It has a golf component, and then there's, a wine drinking, wine tasting, various names. We have chip and sip. We have 9 and dine, 9 and wine. And that's really what it's about for women. That social aspect, and it's got to be social, and it's got to be fun. And, you know, the last thing you want to do is right away talk about keeping score and making it be competitive, because while they're husband or boyfriend or partner, you know, it's all about the Saturday morning $5 Nassau. For the women, it's all about getting out, seeing their friends, walking the golf course if a facility allows walking while you play versus having to ride a cart. And then just that social aspect afterward, whether it's a meal or whether it's a cocktail hour or something like that. I know when I was a professional back in Minnesota, we had a very active 18-hole women's group on Wednesday, and then we had like about 5 o'clock or 5:30, a very active 9-hole group, which tended to be the folks that worked and played their golf after work. And while we have, you know, white grass many months of the year in Minnesota, these women still got together every Wednesday night, and they would have dinner and they would do this and do that, because in their mind, Wednesday was their golf day, regardless of the time of year. And so, you know, it's things like that just having that awareness that, you know, women want to learn with a friend so that it's not scary and that you used earlier, intimidating, and then really just to make it be fun and to make it be social. And, some of our colleagues across the country who are very successful with their women's programming have adopted those things and more. I mean, I know Cindy takes, people to Pro-Am tournaments and things like that. So it's really, engaging them, getting them into the game and making it fun.
It's relationships and participation, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I agree, and really, you said it earlier too, Leanne. It's really about developing relationships, and you're right. Even in climates where maybe you have a few months where you're not able to get out and actually play golf, that social aspect maintains throughout that season, and then gets fired back up when you're able to see the golf ball on the green grass again. I want to know how I get invited to one of these wine and nines. Is it?
9 and wine, 9 and done.
Yeah, I have to play the 9 first before I get to the wine, because I won't score very well. But no, that's a great idea, and there's a lot of great things. I think a lot of it is that there is a lot of great efforts going on. I mean, Cindy and I have talked to a few people on the show over the last year or so that are doing some great work out there. I think what a lot of it is really it's difficult sometimes to get the powers to be to really start focusing on the marketing, and I think if we could put some more resources and making more women aware that these types of organizations and types of functions are out there available to them, you'd get more hands raised when you ask that question, who plays golf. And I think it's just a matter of educating the women out there, not just that are currently in groups like the EWGA, but just other businesswomen through Chamber of Commerce, and just inviting them out to different things and exposing them. And I think you're right. Once they get exposed to it, more often than not, they'll take interest in it. Go ahead.
Let me ask a question. If let's say there was someone from a college, or I wanted to get the University of Buffalo involved in the grad golf program, or I wanted to do it myself, how would someone implement the program?
What we've been doing is, like I said, I've been in contact with LPGA professionals and golf coaches, and really it's just, we have a brief conversation. I kind of explain in detail what the program involves, and then we work in partnership with whether it's the athletic department for the golf coach or the alumni department, and it's just really then working with the business school and identifying who will host the program. You determine your program dates, and then you market the program to, like I said, either business students, and it doesn't have to be, grad school students. It could be undergrad, students in marketing or law or medicine or any number of, academic tracks. and then it's just a matter of we've got a comprehensive program manual with a step-by-step process that includes that curriculum. And then I just work with the person delivering the golf instruction to, implement and host the program at their facility. So, like I said, we've got, 5 or 6 schools on board that are gearing up for hosting it, some of them in the winter in indoor hitting facilities, and then some of them are gearing up to be able to host it in the spring when the new season starts. So it's been, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of fun to be involved in it, and just another way that our golf professionals and golf coaches can help grow the game and give back.
Perfect.
Leanne, let me ask you a question, and I was just, as I was listening to the two of you talking here, came with a thought, and I'm sure maybe there is such a beast out there. Obviously there's a lot of focus on the collegiate end in that, but I can remember when I was younger, believe it or not, I can think that far back, we had things in school for the boys. Of course, we had shop. The women or the girls, we had they had, I think they called it at that time, I don't know if they still have it, home economics. And of course it was the shop. The boys did woodworking and welding and all that kind of stuff, and the girls of course baked and did all kinds of stuff. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity here to get involved with the school systems, whether it be through the LPGA or what, and maybe they're already doing such a thing, where they can work together with the school districts and say, look, we would like to, I mean, you can't do it for every single class, but maybe through a similar home economics program, introduce the girls and boys as well at a younger age, where they can, be invited out as almost like a class trip, if you will, or even have the professionals come into the school and talk about golf at an earlier age, so that, rather than just sort of waiting until they get to that collegiate level. And I know there are junior programs out there, but a lot of the students have to specifically go out and get involved. Is there a way that maybe that could somehow filter into the school system? Is there a way that we could be creative and come up with something, or is there something available?
That's a great thought, and I do know that there are professionals out there who are implementing their own golf in schools programs. Certainly with the PGA Junior Golf League, that's helped because that introduces students of all abilities. It's not just elite competitive students, but I do know of some of our colleagues who are running successful golf in schools programs, but there isn't really anything from a national standpoint or a national program at this point. But it's certainly a great idea because I come from the land of hockey up there in Minnesota,
right.
where
me too.
where where kids learn to play hockey at a young age 3, 4, and 5. You're learning to skate, and then you just filter right into hockey. And I happen to be fortunate to come through a great junior golf program that gave me the ability to play high school and collegiate golf. But you're exactly right. Where many youth are introduced to sports at such a young age, even elementary school age, but it tends to be the traditional, flag football into football and t-ball into baseball and, soccer and hockey. And so, some sports are kind of on the sidelines when it comes to introducing at a young age, unless, youth are introduced to the game by their parents. So,
and that was exactly what my next point I was going to make is, I know exactly some of the programs that you're talking about, and they're fantastic. But again, the students or the youngsters have to be introduced primarily, by their parents or other family members that maybe went through the program themselves. And there's a lot of potential at the middle school and elementary levels where these kids, unless their parents or somebody in their family is involved in golf and is actively talking about it, they really don't have any exposure the same as they would with basketball and football and some of the other sports you mentioned. And I think this is a great opportunity for both the PGA and the LPGA to say, let's work with the education system. And I'm not saying they have to go in and dominate, but just to get in there and expose these kids. And then this would be a great opportunity to filter out to some of these other programs for those that are interested. But at least it would expose these kids and sort of start the fire. Agree, disagree, or what do you think?
Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely, that's really what growing the game is all about is getting new players interested in the game and hopefully offering retention programs because, you can have the most successful player development program and run all kinds of people through your golf instruction or golf clinics and that, but if you don't have follow-up programs to retain them as golfers, then all you have done is introduce them in a series of 6 or 8 lessons, and then you say, okay, well, you know how to play golf, go play golf. And, we know, from the industry and statistics around, introductory player development programs for adults, that if you don't have that next step program, whether it's an advanced level of instruction or whether it's, okay, now that you've done this instruction, now you can filter into this new golfer league. We try to not use the word beginner because we always feel like it's sort of a negative connotation. Nobody wants to really be referred to as a beginner. So. But if you can filter these people into new golfer leagues, then, we've talked about earlier, they've got the golf buddy, they've got the friends, they have the, support network, if you will, people who are the same ability and maybe the same age as they are. And then that's what makes them get hooked on the game and get excited and come back for more. And that's really, like I said, what our job in player development is about, is certainly introducing people, but more importantly, retaining them and turning them into, bona fide golfers.
Well, and also, too, I think, this would be an opportunity. The manufacturers out there are always, trying to find new ways of enticing people, and it's, the latest, greatest driver or some other, gimmick that's out there, and I don't like to use that word always, but essentially that's what it is in order to help golfers. But, this is really an opportunity if the manufacturers want to grow some new, future clients. This would be a great way for them to allocate some funds into the education system and get people exposed to the game at an early age, and then, like you said, filter them into some of the other longer-term programs. But, it would take very little resources collectively, not just by the PGA and the LPGA, but also some of their partners in golf, whether it be, TaylorMade, Nike, and Callaway, and some of these other ones, to say, look, here's an opportunity that we can open the door for future sales by giving back into the education system and getting people exposed to a sport, much like some of the others do in other areas. And as you mentioned about hockey, I mean, we used to have house leagues. I'm from Canada, so I know exactly about hockey, and we had house leagues that were available. And of course, some of the school systems also offered some ice time and things like that. So we were exposed very early, but I don't ever remember seeing a golf program or anything in the school system until much later on.
Right.
And
a smart manufacturer will, have entry level or equipment opportunities. I mean, what a great way to put your brand in front of somebody. And all of us in golf have, favorite brands, whether it's equipment companies or shoes that we like to wear or gloves or something. And it sometimes is about the brand. And a smart manufacturer knows if they can reach someone at a young age, they're likely to stay with that brand through their lifetime. So
sure, exactly.
That's a great suggestion.
Well, I'm writing it down as we speak, and I think Cindy, we may just have to find a way of implementing that, and we would love maybe there's a way that we can partner up with the EWGA and get them involved in it as well. I think it would be a great opportunity to open the doors for not just the women, but obviously the young guys out there as well, because I really think that's how we're going to truthfully grow the game, is to get the next generation excited and involved in about the game that we all of course enjoy. We've only got a few moments here, but Leanne, I want to give you an opportunity. Where can listeners go to learn more about the Grads for Golf program, and is there a website, et cetera, that they can go to and learn more about the EWGA as well?
Sure. The Grads to Golf website is really right now under construction, but certainly to learn more about the EWGA and our programs and our mission, our web address is ewga.com. And, as I mentioned, we have 14,000 members in 120 chapters nationwide. So we have, some states have multiple chapters. I know where you are located up in the Northeast, we have a great EWGA chapter in Long Island and different parts of New York, very, heavily involved and very active chapters. we also offer an EWGA championship every year. And where that came from is it's, we believe, the largest women's amateur golf tournament in the country, because each chapter will hold a chapter championship. And the low scorers in that chapter championship then move on to a district semifinal, and that might be 8 or 10 different chapters that compete at that level. And then the successful people from that district semifinal actually move on to our final championship. And the unique thing about this EWGA championship is it's flighted with 5 different flights, so it's open for all abilities and handicap levels. Mm-hmm. And we also offer a scramble division. So if a person was new to the game and wanted to compete but didn't really want to strike out and play individual stroke play, they have that opportunity to compete, in a scramble division as well. And so we believe that about 2,500 of our members participate in this EWGA championship each year, and then certainly our EWGA championship finals are held every October, and it rotates between the East Coast and the West Coast. And we have been on some fabulous courses, some great resort courses, some courses that have been used by the LPGA and some of their tour events. So that attracts about 240 women every year at that championship. And then another event that we have that's very similar is our EWGA Cup, which is a 2-day, 36-hole match play format, much like the Solheim Cup and Ryder Cup. So the EWGA is just a great organization where women have an opportunity, as we talked about this morning, about coming together and meeting friends and playing opportunities. And it can be casual leagues, but for the people that really enjoy competition, we offer a competitive series like I just talked about. And then we're launching a par 3 challenge. We piloted it last year, where we actually had some golf courses move the tees up on their par 4s and par 5s to create a short course experience. And we're doing that this year, asking each chapter to host a par 3 challenge, and then a portion of the entry fee for that benefits the LPGA USGA Girls Golf, because we're very proud to be a supporter of the LPGA USGA Girls Golf program, and so that's one way that our members love to give back and feel like they're really making a difference in the life of new young golfers.
Excellent.
You guys are super. It's amazing all the stuff you do.
So
that's fantastic.
And we do really, we offer EWGA will be 25 years old next year, so we're having our annual conference in Colonial Williamsburg the end of April, and Cindy's been a part of our conferences in the past, so it's really fun. We have golf opportunities and speakers and professional growth opportunities, so it's really been fun to watch the association grow and expand over the years, and be able to offer golf opportunities for women nationwide.
Fantastic. And they can go to EWGA.com to not only learn about some of the different programs, but also if they're interested in maybe reaching out and becoming a member at their local chapter, they can find out how to go about doing that or contact somebody that can provide them with that information, correct?
Exactly. Right on our homepage, there's an opportunity to locate your state, and what you can do is when you, in the drop-down box, you see your state, and then, like I said, some states have multiple chapters, and for $155 to join, it's really a great opportunity to meet new people and get to network and play in some great events and travel and play some great facilities. And really the neat thing that I've heard of is, that some people have gone through, divorce or death of a spouse or a child or health challenges, and they said that their EWGA friends were really kind of their support group and their friends that really rallied around them. So, that's been a very a nice benefit of that association as well.
Excellent. Well, Leanne, we want to thank you on behalf of Cindy and I. We want to thank you very much for coming on the Women of Golf show this morning and sharing that information with us and with the listeners as well. And we appreciate that. And please continue to do the great work. And I'm going to reach out to you here shortly as well with some ideas that I think would help the organization as well. And I hope that we can, as I said, maybe we can work together and helping to grow this game in all markets, but particularly in the women's market. So thank you again for joining us this morning, and much continued success, and particularly for getting up early and earlier and joining us on the program.
Oh, no worries. It was my pleasure, and certainly, shout out to Cindy for being such a great colleague and a great friend of the golf industry, and for all the great work that she does too. So it was a thrill for me to get invited, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you, Leanne. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yep.
Merry
all
Christmas
the best.
and Happy Holidays to you guys too.
You too. Thank you, Leanne. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We're at the end of our broadcast, the last broadcast for 2015, and we want to thank, again, our special guest, Leanne Finger from the EWGA, for coming on this morning and sharing some great information, and we look forward to having her back in the future and continuing to help her grow her organization as well. And on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, we want to also once again thank all of the listeners around the world for tuning into the broadcast each and every week. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the broadcast, this is the last show for 2015. We'll be starting back up. I believe it's January 5th will be the first show in 2016. So we hope you'll come back, and we hope you'll help spread the word about the program. We're doing our part with the program, one of the ways that we are trying to grow the game. So we hope you will join us in the new year. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a Happy New Year. And Cindy, thank you for always, I concur with Leanne, for doing all the hard work that you do. You do a fantastic job, and it's a pleasure having you here every week with me on the show.
Well, thank you, Ted, and thanks for having me on with you.
It's a pleasure, and I'll be praying for a little bit of snow for Christmas. Not too much, but a little bit of snow for Christmas for you. On behalf of Cindy Miller and I, thank you very much, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Women of Golf in the new year. God bless everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.